How many games will Jacksonville Jaguars win in 2024? What's going on, Duval and Jags fans? It's Emmanuel Jones here, back with another NFL record prediction. This time we'll be doing our NFL record prediction for Jacksonville Jags in 2024. Give you my record prediction, see which games I think the Jags will win and which game I think the Jags will lose. Before I give you my record prediction for the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2024, don't forget, put the thumbs up to like video, subscribe to my channel for more options, and don't forget to comment down in the pin below to see who you think's gonna how far you think Jacksonville will go. Do you think they'll make the playoffs? Do you think they'll win the division? Do you think they're gonna miss out on the playoffs once again? Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Week one, they have to play on the road against Miami. This game's in Miami, which is a tough place to play at because it's gonna be warm there. I mean, Jacksonville may not be used to this weather, but the game's not in Jacksonville, even though both teams are in Florida. But the game's is in Miami, which is kind of hard to play at. So I'm leaning towards the Dolphins because the Dolphins are at home. Yeah, I understand they lost some pieces on defense, but I still think their defense can still play very good, and it's going to keep them in games. But here's the thing. They got a new defense. They don't got Vic Fangio no more. So now they got their new defense coordinator. How's that going to look? The secondary is still the same, even though they lost Howard, but they added Kendall Fuller and Jordan Porter to replace those guys. I think their defense can definitely give the Jags offense issues, but their run defense may not be the same. So maybe Jacksonville can run the ball on them, and Jacksonville can throw on them pretty good, which I think, that can give the Dolphins defense issues. And I feel like their O-line of Miami isn't good. I think the Jags can give them a tough time, but here's the thing. The Dolphins have a lot of speed on offense, like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, OBJ. They also added Jonnu Smith in the mix. I just feel like the receiving core is just going to be too much for the Jags secondary to handle. So, yeah, and I think Tua's going to have a big game. He can throw the ball through the air, especially against the secondary of Jacksonville. So, yeah, I think the Dolphins are going to win this game at home with their offense winning this game with the Dolphins controlling the clock, keeping Trevor Lawrence off the field. So, yeah. Week 2, they got to play against the Cleveland Browns on the home opener. So, obviously, I got Jacksonville winning this game because it's in Jacksonville, and Jacksonville is just a better team overall. I think they're both similar to each other. I think the Browns are a better team from a talent standpoint because the Browns did beat them last year in Cleveland, but the games in Jacksonville were different. Like, here's the thing. My problem with Cleveland is that the Browns defense does not play good on the road. That's where teams at home just torch them. And I just think Trevor Lawrence can have a big game here. And I think the receivers can really win their one-on-one matches against the Browns secondary. And I think their defense can come to play here where they could give Deshaun Watson a tough time, force him to throw the ball in the middle of the field. Like, they can do that. Like, their pass rush can definitely get pressure on him. And I think their young secondary can match up well with the Browns receivers. So, yeah. I think Jacksonville finds a way to win that game at home. Week 3, they got to play against the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, this game's in Buffalo, but that's a game where I think Jacksonville can win because I think people could be picking Jacksonville because they have better weapons on offense than the Bills. But I'm picking the Bills to win this game because the Bills are at home, and I think they're the better team overall. And I just kind of feel like the Bills Mafia is going to go crazy, and because Buffalo's a tough place to play at. And I just think the Bills, I think Josh Allen is going to have a big game here. I feel like he can definitely take advantage of your young secondary. And, their offensive line is pretty strong. Maybe they can control your pass rush. I feel like they can run the ball on you a little bit. And their defense is pretty much the same. They got corners who can man up against Jacksonville receivers. They have a good amount of pass rush to get after Trevor Lawrence. So, yeah. But I kind of remember last year Jacksonville did beat the Bills in London by a close one. But I think the Bills are going to win this game at home in a close one. It could be a shootout. Week 4, they play against the Houston Texans. Obviously, I got the Texans winning this game. Texans are at home. They're a more complete team, better quarterback. They're at home in this game, and I just think the Texans, pretty much own Jacksonville. And especially they played the Jags really well in previous years. Like, the Texans did lose to Jaguars at home, but I think the Texans will win at home in the Dome, and I think C.J. Stroud will have a big game here. I think Stephon Diggs will have a big game, and I think Joe Mixon will. I feel like the Texans' offense is going to be too much for the Jags' defense to handle, especially to have a good offensive line. Their pass rush is pretty solid. Their secondary is pretty much underrated, which I think their secondary can man up against the Jags receivers, and their pass rush can do enough to at least slow down the Jags run game, give Trevor Lawrence issues. So I think the Texans win that game. So they're 1-3, not looking good. Um, Week 5 against the Colts. I'm giving the Jags a win here because Jacksonville just continues to win at home against the Colts. And, I don't know what Anthony Richardson's going to look like because, he only played 5 games last season. So I got questions about him, but they have a good coaching staff. They got good weapons on offense. They got a good offensive line. They got a great defensive line, but not a good secondary. I think the Jags receiving core, that the weapons they have in offense is going to be too much for the Colts defense, especially with their secondary to handle, because I don't see how the Colts can cover the Jags. So I think the Jags are going to win that game. Especially they're just a better team overall and better quarterback, better coaching. They're at home, so yeah. Next game against the Bears. This game is in London. It's not in Chicago, but if the game's in Chicago, it could be a little different and it could be windy there, but the game's not in Chicago. It's in London, which I have to play in London for 2 weeks. Because last year they did that and they're gonna have to do it again. Obviously, this is a game I think the Jags can win because I think the Jags are a better team than the Bears. They have a better quarterback. They have a better coach. But that's a team I think the Jazz can win because Jacksonville is just a better team overall. But the Bears pretty much are going to be a sneaky good team. They got some good weapons, like Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Cole Kmet. They got some weapons that can really throw at you. Like, they can give the Jags defense a lot of problems. They got DeAndre Swift now. They can run the ball. They have a strong offensive line. Their defense is pretty good out and their pass rush. They may not have much of a pass rush, but they got a good secondary. I think this could be a defensive game or an offensive game. I'm gonna roll with the Bears here because I think the Bears defense can match up well with the Jags pretty good. They have a great pass rush that can get after Trevor Lawrence. They have a good secondary that can man up against the Jags receivers. So yeah, I think they can run the ball on them a little bit. And I just think Keenan Allen and DJ Moore are just going to be too much for your defense to handle. And I think Caleb Williams is going to have a big game. I think they can control the game, keep Trevor Lawrence off the field. I think the Bears offense can definitely win this game by a touchdown. But this should be a fun game to watch. But I think the Bears will win. But this could be a Matt Eberflus revenge game. But I think the Bears find a way to pull this one off. Week 7 against the Patriots. I think they'll beat the Patriots because the Patriots they're 2-4, not looking good, but I think they do get back on track to beat the Patriots because the Patriots going to be doing learning curves, new quarterback, new coach, a new culture in New England. They pretty much got the same defense, but the offense looks a little different, even though they added some new pieces on offense, especially their offensive line, because I don't think their offensive line's good. But I just feel like the Jags defense can definitely give the Patriots offense a lot of issues. And they pretty much have more weapons on offense that are just more explosive than the Patriots because I think the Patriots are just not explosive on offense. I don't think their offense is just explosive than the Jags. Cause I think the Jags are more explosive on offense than the Patriots because I think the Patriots can move the because I don't think the Patriots can move the ball on teams that have a good defense. I think Jacksonville's defense is pretty strong. maybe they can give the Patriots offense at you. Their secondary is pretty strong, which I think they can man up against the Patriots receivers and on the one receiving core of the Patriots. So yeah, I think Trevor Lawrence can have a big game here. And even though the Patriots have a good secondary, I think the Jags can win their one-on-one matches against that. So yeah, I like the Jags here. Next game against the Patriots, against the Packers. Obviously, if this game was in Green Bay, I could go with the Packers, but I'm going. But the game's in Jacksonville. I'm picking Jacksonville to win this game at home because Jaguars are at home and they have a better quarterback. And the Packers, I wouldn't trust a young team on the road, especially in Jacksonville, which I think Jacksonville's defense, they pretty much have a really good underrated defensive line that can really get pressure on Jordan Love, make him uncomfortable and all that. Their secondary can man up against a young receiving core of the Packers. Like, I think they can stop their running game. And, the Packers do have a good talented defense, especially up front in the secondary, but they can be soft at times. But I think Jacksonville can like run the ball on them a little bit. And especially they can throw at them because, the Packers secondary is not good against there because the Packers on defense are not good against the pass at times and not good against the run. So maybe they can throw at them a little bit. And I think, they can like win their one-on-one matchups in the secondary of Green Bay, which I think they can do that. Because I think they can like control the game and keep Jordan Love off the sidelines. If you can keep him off the field, I think they can win that game. So I like Jacksonville in this game. So it's 4-4, looking good. Then you have to play against the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday night. This is a tricky game. This could be a Doug Peterson revenge game because Doug Peterson was on the Philadelphia Eagles coach, was the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. But if this game was in Jacksonville, I would roll with Jacksonville, but I think it will be closer. But I'm going with the Eagles here because I think the Eagles are just slightly the better team overall. They're at home. And I just have a feeling the Eagles are a pretty good team. They got a strong offensive line and defensive line and strong secondary, but their secondary is soft against the pass at times. Maybe there's a chance the Jazz can throw at them and win their one-on-one matches against that. But I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball really good because I think the Eagles' defensive line can get pressure on Trevor Lawrence and make him uncomfortable in the pocket. But the Eagles got a lot of skill players on offense like A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. They also added Saquon Barkley. I feel like the receiving weapons are just going to win their one-on-one matchups against the Jags secondary, which I think they're going to do that. And I think they can run the ball in Jacksonville. Okay, so I think Jalen Hurts going to have a good game here. He can use his legs to extend plays outside of structure. And especially, he can do that at home in Philly. So I like the Eagles here. Next game, week 10, they got to play against the Minnesota Vikings. I got them bounce back and winning against the Vikings. The Vikings, I don't know who the quarterback's going to be. Is it going to be Sam Darnold or J.J. McCarthy? I don't know. Jacksonville's just better quarterback, better team overall, and all that. So, yeah. They're at home and got the better coaching staff. So, yeah. That's pretty much why. I mean, the Vikings are kind of a tricky team that got good skill group on offense, like that who can give your defense some issues, like Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hockenson. They also added Aaron Jones as a running back. They can run the ball on you. They can throw the ball at you. Their offensive line is okay, but it's not great. Maybe the Jazz defensive line can take advantage of that. And, their defense, they got Brian Flores, and his scheme is really good. If he finds a way to at least like defend Trevor Lawrence, I think the Vikings can win that game. But my problem with the Vikings is that, they can stop the run okay, but they cannot stop the pass really good. I mean, their pass defense at times are soft, and I don't think they have the corners to man up against the Jags receivers. I feel like Brian Thomas, Gabe Davis, Evan Ingram, especially, Christian Kirk, those guys are going to be too much for the Vikings secondary to handle. So I think Trevor Lawrence will have a big game here. So I like the Jags here in this matchup. Week 11, they got to play against the Lions in Detroit. I got the Lions here winning this game because the Lions, they're at home. They're just a better team overall. I view them that they're probably going to be one of the best teams in the NFL. They have a good offensive line. They got good weapons. They have a good running game. Like, they can run the ball on you. They can throw at you. And their defense is pretty solid. Like, they can stop the run really good. Their secondary is solid. I think they can stop the pass really good. I feel like the Lions did upgrade their secondary to man up against the Jags receivers. Now, I think the Lions defensive line is going to give the Jags offense some fits. So, yeah. And I feel like they can win their one-on-one matchups against your secondary. So I feel like Jared Goff is going to have a good enough time in the pocket where the offensive line can protect them to put your defense in a bad position. So yeah, I think the Lions kind of have a better defense than Jacksonville in my opinion. So yeah, I think the Lions, find a way to control the game, control the clock to keep Trevor Lawrence off the field. So yeah, I like the Lions here to win that game. So they're 5-6 heading before the bye. Now they're not looking good. They're getting close to 500. I don't know what's going on with Jacksonville, but this schedule is pretty tough. But after the bye week, they got to play at home against the Texans. Obviously, I think they'll beat the Texans to split the season series because Jacksonville's at home in this game. They're gonna have more to play for because I feel like they're a team that they could definitely make the playoffs this year, or they could barely miss it. So yeah, Week 14 against the Titans. They got to play back to back against the Titans though, Week 14 and Week 17. So that's 2 weeks before Week 17 they have to play. I'm gonna say they split with the Titans. So I'm gonna say they lose the first game against Tennessee, and I'm gonna say they win the second game against the Titans because the Titans pretty much play the Jags hard. The reason why I got them losing to the Titans is because the Titans are at home. They improved their roster a little bit, and I think their defense can give you some issues. And I feel like they can give the Jags offense some issues. Like, they have a great secondary to man up against the Jags receivers. Their pass rush can get after Trevor Lawrence. And they got good weapons on offense, that can really run the ball on Jacksonville. They can throw at them. So, yeah, I think Tennessee can win that first matchup. And I got them winning the second matchup against Tennessee because I think Jacksonville's an overall better team, better quarterback, better coaching staff. They're at home. So, yeah. And I don't think Tennessee's going to be very good. So, yeah. Week 15, they have to play against the Jets. Obviously, this game right here can go either way. Now, some people could be leaning towards the Jets because the Jets could be a better team. But the game's in Jacksonville. So I'm going Jacksonville at home to win this game because the Jets don't really play really well on the road against Florida teams. And I think Jacksonville is going to be one of these games where Jacksonville's defense can give the Jets offense some issues because I feel like Aaron Rodgers could have a tough time. And I think their defense is just going to win this game as well. So, yeah. And I think they pretty much have a secondary that can man up against the Jets receiving core. But I thought from 2 years ago, the Jags really played the Jets really well. Like, they really moved the ball on them. They really found a way to give the Jets offense issues. I think they can do this in front of their home crowd. So yeah, I like the Jags here. And then week 16, they play against the Raiders. This is a tricky game. Now, some people could be picking the Raiders to win, but I don't know because the Raiders are probably a decent team. The Raiders do have good weapons on offense that can really move the ball against the Jags defense, like Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers. They can run the ball on them. They have a strong offensive line. Their defensive line did improve by adding Christian Wilkins in the mix on Max Crosby. Their secondary is totally not good. So I can definitely see the Raiders win this game because Vegas is a tough place to play at. But I'm gonna lean towards Jacksonville to win this game on the road because Jacksonville is just a slightly better team. They have the better quarterback, the better coaching staff, and I just think the weapons that the Jags have on offense is just gonna be too much for the Raiders secondary to handle because I don't think the Raiders have the corners to cover the Jags receivers. Like they don't really have anybody in the second that can really cover those weapons of Jacksonville. So I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have a big game here. So yeah, I like the Jags here in this game. Then week 18, they play against the Colts. Obviously, I got them splitting with the Colts, so I'm going to say the Colts win this game at home because they typically own Jacksonville. I feel like the Colts might want that revenge from last year because, they got swept by Jacksonville. I don't see it happening again. So yeah, I think the Colts will win the second matchup. So obviously, I got the Jazz going 9-8, which that that could be looking that it could be looking outside the playoffs. It could get you to the playoffs, but yeah. 3-3 in the division, 7-5 in the conference, 8-0 at home, 1-8 away. I mean, that's pretty not bad. I mean, when you look at the Jazz schedule, it's tough because they have to play they have to play a lot of teams who made the playoffs last year. Like they got to play the Dolphins, the Browns, the Bills, the Texans twice. They got to play the Colts twice. They play the Bears, they play the Packers, the Eagles, the Lions. Um, they got to play the Jets. Like this is a tough schedule, which I can definitely see the Jags, winning like at least like one or two more games. Like I can definitely see them winning games like the Bears. I can definitely see them beating the Eagles, and I can definitely see them like losing to team. Which yeah, I can definitely see them lose to the Raiders too. But yeah, but maybe if I give them one more win, maybe it's against the Bears, which that can definitely sneak them into the playoffs. But yeah, I just think Jacksonville has a more difficult schedule than last season. I think Jacksonville is gonna land somewhere from like 9 to 10 wins. I'm going with 9 because of a difficult schedule, but I think they have a ceiling floor. I think their ceiling can be like 11 to 12 wins this year. And I think 8 and 9 at worst, which is bull. Which I don't see them winning 8 games. I don't expect them to do any better than 10-7 because I have the Texans above Jacksonville for a reason. Because I think Houston's a better team than them, and the Colts could be a sneaky good team, and so the Titans too, which they can surprise some people. I feel like Trevor Lawrence is gonna have another breakout season because I think the offensive line is still a question. The receiving core is pretty good. The defensive line did improve. The linebackers are the same. The secondary is still the same after that Darnell Savage move pickup. So yeah, I think Jacksonville should be a sneaky good team. I think they're an average team, in my opinion. So yeah. So let me know in the comments link below what you think about Jacksonville. This is Emmanuel Jones, big fan. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys later in the next video. Peace.